So I am going to go ahead and start because for two reasons. First of all, thank you for being here on such a beautiful, gorgeous night. I need a mic. Yes. Testing 1, 2, 3. Got the mic. Okay. So thank y'all so much for being here because I consider this glorious because we've needed the rain and it always comes at the perfect time, right? When we all have a meeting and trying to drive home and get our kids home safely, but we will take it, right? Want to start off first. Tomorrow is a very special day. So want to start off by wishing Terry Combs a very happy 50th birthday. So happy birthday to Miss Combs. May we all look this good when we turn 50. Happy birthday, Miss Combs. You're very, very welcome. So I want to start off in a different way today. So most of you have probably heard that last Thursday, the board approved to move forward with our bond, right? So many of you probably heard that. Some of you, it might have taken that news as a surprise. So I want to start off by explaining and kind of sharing a little bit because the last two bond meetings or growth and planning meetings, we talked a lot about it. Should we? Shouldn't we? We asked your opinion. We looked at data. We kind of went back and forth on it. So I'm going to just be really vulnerable and tell you that it's truly, for me, it was kind of like when I first started to learn to ride a bike. So when I personally first learned how to ride a bike, my parents didn't teach me. It was a friend. And after I had my first fall, I wanted to have nothing to do with my bike. Nothing to do with my bike. Hated the bike. I was okay with never learning how to ride a bike. So the experience that I had almost a year ago in November, I personally wasn't ready to go there again. So I had to do a lot of self-reflection. And it was two things. Either I take the opportunity and go for a bond, which I might fall off my bike, or don't take that opportunity and do nothing, and then something horrible could happen. So I'd rather take the chance of falling off my bike. But knowing that we did everything to put out the information to our community in regards to our bond. So if you feel like, gosh, you know, Jeanette, you sound a little wishy-washy. One meeting you're coming and telling us we're not ready. Another meeting you're telling us we are ready. Now you're really saying, look, we're not going to vote or talk about it again. The board already approved for us to go to a bond. I wanted to own it and tell you that I think a lot of it fell on me in regards to how I was guiding the committee. Everything that we shared with the committee was factual. There's still some reports that we don't have. There's some data that we don't have. The one thing that I do know and the data that I do have is that we do need some things. And so that information persuaded me to get back on my bike, even if I fall off, and let's go for it. So tonight, what we want to share with you is last Thursday, it was just last Thursday, the board did approve to go for a bond, and it's for two propositions that you will hear a lot about. If you watched that meeting, there was a lot of discussion for the items and which items yes, which items no, and just lots of discussion that the team will share with you. But in a nutshell, what I can tell you is we are going to go and ask our community to go and vote. And we're going to arm them with all the factual information. We're going to continue to have these meetings because ultimately in November, there will be a ballot that is for a bond for Judson ISD. So several team members have information to share with you. You can ask us lots of questions. But Nicole, if you will go to the next slide. we will start to talk about the start of the school update. So we've done some things to do the very best we can to keep our district safe. And I'm going to ask Helen to start with these first two things having to do with the fencing and the doorbells, and then Lacey will be going right after that.
Thank you, Dr. Ball. So the first couple of items are really in response to what happened in Uvalde, and really a cry from our teachers and faculty and staff and just our own concern. So one of the things we've been looking at, and one of the things we were able to do over the summer, is install some fencing and gates at a couple of campuses that we thought had some vulnerabilities. So I'm happy to report we were able to complete the fencing at Wagner. This is all the way around their area where they have portable buildings, and so we were able to get that done. And then at Kitty Hawk. So at Kitty Hawk, we've put some temporary fence, some is permanent because we had to order materials and stuff, but that will continue. The one thing I want to report, the bond does have some additional fencing and gates, but we are still actually looking at campuses, looking at vulnerabilities, and we'll continue to go. And in the high vulnerable areas that we have, we'll continue to help the campuses try and provide a little bit more security. It's not like we're going to stop until after a bond to try and address some of those things. The second one is doorbells. So at the end of the last school year, maintenance staff did a really great job. They went out and installed doorbells at every campus and district facility. So you'll notice even here at ERC, we have a doorbell, just like everyone. And that's just to provide another layer of security. And it was something that we could do and do immediately with very minimal cost. So we just wanted to provide that for all our facilities, for all of our staff and our kids. And then Matt will come up and talk about some of, Lacey will come up and talk about some of what they're doing with technology.
So for some of the initial start of the school year, we did budget some funds to help replace a few areas for access control as well as some cameras. And we had a couple of locations here in the district that did not have access control on their main entrances or the main entrances where students come in and out. So we allocated those funds, and those are being installed right now. So hopefully by the end of this next week, every single one of our campuses will have badge access at the main doors as well as the main student doors that go between buildings. Obviously, there is much more that needs to be done, so we are working on doing what we can with some of the budgeted funds, but at some point that will run out. One of the things that we have also added, we have gone ahead and purchased key card badges that we can give to students. They are the same key card badges that are given to our staff members. So those can be given to students as well, especially at the secondary levels, so that they can go between buildings, and those buildings and doors can remain locked, and those students aren't having to be escorted everywhere with the teachers. I know right now that is somewhat of a struggle at our secondary campuses, but that has been in the process of purchasing. It was approved at the last board meeting. And so those badges will be coming in very soon as well to allow for that access. And we do have enough for the elementary students as well. So we'll be getting with the principals once those come in so that we can dish those out and make sure that we can move around the campuses. Our photo ID check-in procedures, we have increased that. Obviously, when parents come in, they are required to show photo ID. We are checking those. We are running those through our Raptor system. They are to get a badge when they walk into the building. We either hold the ID at the front and instruct parents that when they leave, they have to return the Raptor badges back to us. So every single person that's coming in and out of the building, they are being checked in, and we are keeping a sign-in of those individuals.
So one of the things that we do quite often in these meetings is we give you a lot of information. A-okay to raise your hands at any time and ask us questions. If you don't feel comfortable, we're passing out some stickies, and you can just write them in there, and at the end of the meeting, you can get those to us. So we wanted to share with you now in regards to our 2016 bond. Okay, some people might be wondering, why is it that you're going for another bond if all our projects are not complete? 96% of the projects are complete. Some of these were purposely and strategically not complete for various reasons because we knew that other things were needed at that campus. So we wanted to roll it all into one instead of destroying the campus, fixing it, and then destroying it again. So that's some of the things. So if you see here, you will see in pink, those are the things that we know we still need to work on and will still be completed at any time, whether the bond passes or not. So these are some of the specific things in regards to those campuses that are in pink. Candlewood, I'd like to spend a few minutes talking about Candlewood. Candlewood's project is extensive, and we've learned our lesson when we've done this at 2 other campuses that had to operate with 1 restroom. Imagine operating with 1 restroom. That's a nightmare. So we've strategically waited on that. So these are the projects that we know we still need to complete from the 2016 bond. Very happy to say that from the 2017 bond, 100%. That was for veterans. So all of that has been completed. So very proud and excited about that. Many of you might be wondering, how does this bond compare to what we had originally thought of? It is different. It is different. This was the original bond from 2021. Not everything is on there. Not everything is on there. We strategically did two things and said, what do we need for safety and security? Because that's our most urgent need. And also, how do we help our growth? So some of the things that we looked at is what safety and what security. Really had an in-depth conversation. And this isn't new to any of you guys. If you've been coming to our meetings, you've seen that. So then we took this information. Then what we did is developed this. This is what's in Proposition A. So all of these things fall somehow along the lines of safety and security. Some of the things you might think, well, do they really? But we have some graphics right now that we will show you. But I'm going to put this up here for just 30 seconds at least so everybody can look at it. I'll pick one. Why is Wi-Fi so important? Wi-Fi is important because if I want our cameras to work, we need the Wi-Fi. So just a few little things on there that you might think, how do they fall into safety and security? They all intertwine. Okay, then in Proposition B, you can go back to this. This is the graphic to try to demonstrate that we took security cameras. In order to get security cameras, we need the cabling and the wiring for the security cameras. We need the electrical upgrades. We need to have the battery cabinet. And I share this with you because maybe some of you are like me, that I think of, just put the camera on there and just turn on the switch and it'll work, right? I wish it was that easy. I so wish it was that easy. But then Matt and Lacey have to remind me, no, Jeanette, you need all the stuff that you don't see that's behind the wall in order to make it happen. So wanted to demonstrate that in this graphic. Then this, I want to share with you, our enrollment right now is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. We are growing, and that's a great, great thing. So this right here shows our enrollment. Look at that. That is awesome. These are the true numbers, the sweet little butts in their sweet little seats. Little warm ones are in there. So then going to Proposition B, we know we've been talking about needing the middle school. We know we need an elementary, and we know we need more buses. I don't mean to put anybody on the spot, but I'm going to pick on Olympia, the counselor here from Olympia. What time do you think you finish bus? Y'all probably don't have a lot of bus pickups. Okay, let me go to veterans. Tell me what time you get out and what time transportation? Yeah.
I left campus at 5:45, and we were still waiting on 2 buses.
Yeah.
And we get out of school at 4:35.
Right.
I think it's home at 6:30 from that.
Yeah.
Right. And this is not
They're doing bus time.
right. And this is not because of the rain. Okay, just so you know, this is
Every day occurring.
right. So why we need some buses? Okay, so let me go to the next one. Okay, so here we are. This is location of the new middle school. Anybody that has seen where the Mokes is, you kind of know that it's in that same vicinity, right there where the Mokes is. That's the best way for me to describe the middle school. And go back real quick. Sorry. And then the elementary, it is on a piece of land that we already own off of I-35 east of 1604. So that's another perfect location. So the big question that everybody's been wanting to know, will it be a tax increase? Yes, it will be a tax increase. It will. This is for a tax increase. So they can't, very good, Ms. Combs, they can't get confused. They can't. So we did our best to explain it right there. If it's, let me just go these figures really quick. In regards, if it's $100,000 home, 200 or 300, it has what the projected figure right there. The total package for this bond is $345,299,900. That is more than last November's, but keep in mind everything has skyrocketed in cost. So what we could have built a middle school for is now more. Even personally, your gas, your groceries, everything has gone up. So little information there. So go to the next slide. So here it is. We put some figures in there. I'm just going to pick a few. If your home costs $75,000, it's about $7.50 paid per year. I'll pick another one. If your home is $245,000, it's about $24.50. $300,000, it's about $30. Comments, questions, thoughts? Okay, I'll keep going. So this is how it rolls out in regards to the timeline. So the deadline to deliver the notice to the election officers is September the 9th. So we'll have our wording exactly by then. Oh, I forgot to introduce somebody. I apologize. Our bond counsel is in the room today, so I wanted to introduce her. I don't know if you want to say a few words. Oh, you'll be saying a few words. I'll let you in a second. Okay, yeah. You have a whole presentation, absolutely. So some key dates, absentee mail-in ballots are there, register to vote deadline, early voting in person begins, vote by mail, last day for early voting, election day, just some key dates there. So now we're going to talk about some do's and don'ts in just a second. But for me, any questions? So we will continue all our growth and planning meetings, okay? So you're thinking, well, but why, Dr. Ball? You've already called for a bond. Why would we continue this, right? Because I want to arm you with the questions, and I want you to arm me. I want to arm you with the facts, and you arm me with the questions of what people are saying and what people need from us. So you're out there hearing from people all the time. So we want to make sure that you also have our factual flyers, that you have posters, that you're involved in us and the activities that we do. So we're out there getting the facts out about the bond. Today, you're going to hear from our legal counsel about some do's and don'ts. Please keep in mind that the do's and the don'ts for employees and parents are completely different. Completely different. The ones, everybody can help us, But parents, your role is completely different in regards to how you can help us. I'm going to just turn it over to you. Okay.
My name is Kerry Trell. I'm with the law firm of Cantu Harden. I specialize in school district bond elections and the issuance of bonds. So I've been doing this for over 24 years. And the rules regarding bond elections really haven't changed. Just the more and more cases that come up, and you kind of, the public learns about what's in existence. If you can go to the first slide. This is what we're talking about today, the ethics in bond election. You'll look up here and you'll see some headlines from some newspapers and news outlets regarding instances where school district employees and or administration have crossed the line on what is factual information regarding the projects to be voted on in a bond election versus advocating or trying to convince the public to vote yes. So what we're talking about here is if somebody is an employee of the school district and they receive their employment, their funds, their salaries from the school district, they cannot advocate a bond or voting for a bond election during their school time, nor can they use any school resources to advocate voting for the bond election. And the reason that is because the school district is not supposed to be the one convincing the voters to vote yes. They're just supposed to be telling what the facts are. All right? As a community member, private citizen, you obviously have your own opinion. And when you're off of, and if you're a parent, you're not restricted to this. You, of course, can say that you're going to vote for the bond election and would recommend your neighbors, your community members to do the same. And in fact, employees outside of their district time can put signs in their yards that say they're going to vote for the bond election, vote yes for the bond election, as long as it's not on school district time or with school district resources. Okay? And go back real quick. So y'all might remember one of our local school districts in the bottom right there, right? Northeast or Northside ISD had some concerns from the governor's office about their bond election a few years ago. All right. So the law we're talking about, next slide. It's called, you're promoting or electioneering or providing a legal political advertisement for avocation of election. That is a Class A misdemeanor, and you can see the fine is up to $4,000 and 1 year in jail. I'll tell you that, you would have to be, to get something that severe, you would have to be purposely breaking the law for somebody to impose that. But this just kind of reiterates what is out there if you go and electioneer on the election and you're on district time or district money. Thank you. So gets to the point of what can we tell the public about the bond election? All right. You're supposed to provide, and this again relates to school district employees, you're supposed to stick to the factual information. And here's just a brief summary of the factual information we know about this bond election. Obviously, it's one of the measures is for safety and security provisions, and here are some of the highlighted items that are going to be installed by the district if the election passes. That's factual. Same thing with the second proposition, which is the school building proposition. It shows the three projects, the middle school, the elementary school, and transportation, which is buses. That's factual, right? However, well, you have to approve the security vestibules because nobody's safe, and you have to vote yes for it. Well, now you're violating number 2, which is no promotional or advertising advocacy for those projects. Okay, What are the projects we're doing? We're doing security vestibules. You can tell what they're there for. It is a barrier, from the public coming into the school district facilities, and it's a safety feature. You can state the factual information there. And that relates to any one of these items. So election engineering, as you'll see up there, are things that are said or done to advocate the winning of the election. And then advocacy includes statements or information that is reasonably likely to influence a voter to vote a certain way, right? Oh, yeah, if we don't have those security vestibules, your child's in danger. That's promote at you are now trying to convince somebody to vote yes for the security vestibules. And then we're here to look at any information put out by the district regarding the bond election to make sure it's factual. So the district will put out factual pamphlets to the voters to demonstrate what the projects are. It's my job to look through and make sure it's a factual presentation and not advocating the bond election. Can a school employee or board member campaign for a bond election? Here's what we were talking about. The statute prohibits the use of school district resources for political advertising. Again, that's more than just currency. That's district materials, supplies. That's employee time while you're working. School district resources, obviously, and that includes emails as well. So if you're using your school district email system, you cannot advocate for passage of the bond election. An employer official, however, may campaign for a bond election on your own free time and with your own personal resources. Again, if you want to put a sign up in your yard that says vote yes, that's your personal property, that's your personal time. If you want to have a party at your house where you advocate passage of the bond election outside of school district time, that's your personal choice. And you can't separate, you're allowed to separate your personal from your work environment. So you do have personal freedoms to advocate for election, but just not on district time or with district resources. Next slide. Can the district take an official position concerning the bond election? The answer is no, it cannot. It can only present factual information. That's about the fifth time I've said it, and I'll probably say it 2 more times. So, yes, it has to be factual. And again, that's what I'm here for, is to make sure the information distributed by the district is a factual communication. So what facts cross the line into advocacy? These are kind of statements that people make that have the intent of influencing a vote, yes, for the bond election. And these are the kind of statements that will get you in trouble. I'll leave it up there for a second and let you kind of look at it. And you can kind of see variations of it in your mind, how you might say something that ends up being an advocacy for the bond election, just based upon the words you use. So, the last one there, avoid motivational slogans. Obviously, that's an action which is when you're trying to be motivational for the bond election, that's an action which is trying to elicit a vote for yes. All right, next one. Also, you got to be careful of pictures and images. Yeah, I love the one on the left. I wish it was proper. But anyway, you can't mislead the public or influence the public just by pictures. It's the same thing as words. We all know that words and images have meaning, and anytime you're using meaning to manipulate or convince somebody to vote a particular way on the bond election, then that's advocacy. All right? Next picture or slide. So again, we're just talking about the straight facts and non-advocacy. So you've got in that pamphlet the list of the Proposition A and Proposition B, and I've called it district-wide security and safety improvements, and then new school construction and bus acquisition. These are the facts. And the facts can also include what the purpose of these improvements are for. So obviously, one of the things that I note is the panic buttons with the automatic lockdown button. You can explain that, some of the improvements we're putting in there are to make sure that the classrooms have panic buttons. And as part of that panic button system, it will create an automatic lockdown for our schools. That's factual, right? And people can understand rationally what the benefit of that is for their children. So that's kind of where we are on what you can say. You can talk about the proposed project costs. I did not put those up there, but we have that information for you. You could talk about the growth rates. And what I mean by growth rates, you could talk about the growth rate of the value of properties and why the impact on taxes is less. You could talk about the growth rate of your student population, why we need those 2 new schools. The student population has increased by 10% or whatever that amount is. That's a fact, that your student population is increasing. And you can talk about that as the necessity or the purpose of the new schools is because your student population growth rates. You can talk about performance data. You can talk about student capacity. You can talk about the age and conditions of buildings. The condition of buildings can include all the security features that need to be implemented to make the campuses secure. You can talk about tax rates. And then, of course, you can talk about voting dates, times, and locations. The one thing we always say is, at the very least, advocate that people go out. And it's the only time I'm going to use it in this respect. Go out and vote. Don't tell them vote yes or no. Please go vote. Because I think parents will tend to vote for the security of their children. And then, especially with the sad news and headlines we're getting recently, that security is very important. So all you got to do is tell them to go out and vote, and that part of the reason they need to go vote because we're doing district-wide security and safety improvements. So best practices during the bond election is to know your bond propositions and the proposed projects. And then you will share only the facts related to those bonds, the projects and the amount of the bonds, the projected tax increase. If you're talking about, so when Dr. Ball talked about, the penny tax hike and what it would affect on a $300,000 house, that's only a projection, okay? And that's a projected impact. We don't have, that is not factual today because we haven't sold the bonds yet. So if you're talking about tax impact, you use the word projected because that's the only way we can explain it to the voters today. Again, encourage people to vote. Just don't tell them how to vote. And you yourself vote. Okay? And best practices during an election, again, the don'ts. Do not advocate during work hours. Do not conduct political advertising on district property. Do not conduct political advertising using district resources, nor spend or authorize the spending of district money for political advertising. Those are the ones that get you in trouble with the law that we showed when we started off on this slide presentation. Next. Can a board member, this is the Board of Trustees, put a vote yes for the bonds in his or her yard or display bumper stickers about the bonds? Yes, they can. Employees and officials have the right to free speech, to express political opinions during their own individual capacity using their own resources. And you don't have to use a disclaimer. And this is about the sign we were talking about you could put in your yard. Can a board member send an email promoting the bond election to the school staff and employees? Here it's best practice to stay away from that because it's about perception. And if somebody's perceiving an undue influence on district personnel to vote yes, that maybe they're fearful for their job, it's a bad influence and it's looked on negatively. So it's best not to do that. And the real determination, if it goes into the district email system, that's a bad thing. right? If it's to their personal email address, it's less of a concern. And then also, if it's on the employees or on the district's web or email system, are they printing it? You have no control over what they're doing with that email after you send it to them. Okay, next slide. What about flyers in teacher mailboxes or in the lounge not advocating the election? You can do it with straight facts, but not saying vote yes for the election. Again, that's undue influence on your district employees to suggest passing the bond election. Also, it's using school resources, and it's a limited public forum. It means only the employees of the district are accessible into the district lounge, and so you're narrowing your target group to somebody you can influence. So that's not allowed. So with that, all those negative things I've just talked about, do we have any questions about instances or any thoughts you have? Yes, please.
I have a couple of questions. So the first question is on final. Would you like me to?
Yeah.
You're handing a You're handing a politician a microphone.
Exactly.
Hi, everybody at home watching. This is going to be long and lengthy. No, I'm just kidding.
Sure.
No, just real quick. The first thing is, if I'm a volunteer at a school, I can wear a shirt that says "Vote Yes for the Bond" while I'm volunteering. Correct?
Correct.
All right. The second question is all these employees here on your own time, they can tell anybody on their own time not using school resources to vote yes for the bond. They can vote yes for the bond, all that stuff. As long as they're not on school property is probably a good thing, and as long as they're not getting paid during a school session. So today, for example, I could have walked into this wearing a vote yes for the bond. I can tell people right now, you all need to vote yes for the bond, right?
I am voting yes for the bond.
Okay, I'm voting yes. So that's, and then the last thing is can the district allow on school time their employees to go vote in an election?
Correct. As long as they're not instructing them on how to vote, they can allow them to vote during school time.
My question is, I sit on a few different boards as a parent. So like when we have our FFA meeting, can I print out flyers and hand them out to our parents? What about ROTC? Can we send that out as a blanket email as a board member, as a parent board member, to our parents?
Those are parent groups, correct?
Yes.
So therefore, it's not a school district.
Even though we're on school property usually when we're doing these, our meetings are usually held on property.
Yes, but it's personal time, and
Yes.
it's not you're that. Now the thing that district has to be careful of is where the situation changes is if they allow a community meeting for vote yes, and the opposition wants to have the same access, they have to have the right to come in and observe it. But in your group, you're going to have probably members who want to hear vote yes, and you're probably going to have some that want to hear vote no, right? You're going to have both advocacies probably in your organizations. So it's not setting up the meeting for just vote yes. This is a meeting where, as parents, you can discuss the benefits of a bond election and how it affects you personally and how you'll vote for it personally. Correct. Any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you so
Sure.
much.
Thank you. Dr. Paul.
I'm going to repeat what he said. Any other questions? This is my last slide. So Dr. Ball had to step out, but she wanted to, again, extend her thanks for you all being here tonight. Also for all of the work that you've put in and time you've put in to help us prioritize items to put into this safety and security bond. We are excited to move forward. And if you have any questions, we may be able to answer them. We may not. Ms. Rodriguez, hi, little buddy. So the question is, will campuses be hosting informational sessions? We are working on that schedule now. We are going to try and have some informational, we're going to ask campuses to allow us to have some informational time during already scheduled events, like your open house nights that are already on the calendar, so that you're not having anything additional. And so in the Friday memo, I asked that if you hadn't updated those, if there are any changes, to please submit those so that we can work on that schedule. So yes. Yes, ma'am.
So I noticed a constant theme in these meetings, which is we keep talking to all the pro-bond people, and those are not my neighbors. I have a lot of adamant naysaying people, and I almost never can come up with enough positive stuff to combat the very, very negative view they have on Judson, on bonds, on what it means to their budgets. And I just wish that we could just going to schools, they're not going to go to schools. They're not going to, I need information that I can hand out if I were to host like a little, neighborhood night out party where they're not going to attack me and they're going to oust me as like the super liberal amongst all my retired neighbor friends, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. So that is definitely something that we have considered, especially since our last bond, and how we can reach that broader population that we didn't quite reach last time. And we have a few strategies that we're going to be using as far as like mailing out more information to that broader community, hosting meetings that are not always at the schools, and possibly getting in touch with HOAs, church organizations, and those sort of things. We can definitely supply you with factual information. Luckily, you've attended almost every one of these meetings that you can certainly embellish on some of the things that we may not be able to, but certainly if there is a question factually that we can give you an answer to, we'll definitely provide you with that. So we probably will not be producing bumper stickers we will not be producing bumper stickers or yard signs that say vote yes, but we will have some yard signs and signage and things like that of just bond, election day, are you registered, general information that is not to sway.
So let me say that typically, you can form a political action committee, as private citizens, where everybody contributes money to this political action committee that can advocate yes for the election, that can put out the bumper stickers, that can put out the pins, that can put out the T-shirts or whatever you want to do, yard signs. You, as long as you create a political action committee outside of the school district, that's who produces those signs. The school district, again, remember, they're just going to put out factual pamphlet that just kind of explains the purposes of the election, the voting times and dates, and the projected tax impact, and that's going to be what it's restricted to. And let me just talk about projected tax rate right now. That you might say, well, that's not factual, and you're allowed to say it. It is projected based upon the current factual situation in the district, and in fact, the state requires that statement in your bond election order. So the state has kind of recognized it as a fact based upon current projections that you can talk about projected tax rate impacts. So I didn't want anybody to say, well, man, that guy just was playing around words. He's saying that you can talk about a projected impact on the taxes for my house, but that's not factual. It's the basis that it's on what is projected today based upon current economic impacts, and it is recognized by the state in calling the bond election.
Absolutely, Dr. Fields. Can you come to a mic, please?
Okay, I need the microphone. To your point earlier, you were talking about bringing your father. This is a good place to bring the naysayers as well. because now they can sit in the meeting and hear for themselves, ask the hard questions that need to be heard, and then we can give the answers or go back and find them, and it'll help us out as well. So we don't want to limit just tasking you guys to go out and talk to them. Bring them here, because we'd love to speak with them.
Any other questions? Yes. So Dr. Johnson asked, is it appropriate to produce some sort of presentation like this with just the facts, post it for public consumption? And the answer is yes, we do typically do that. We are currently working on our Bond 2022 website. There are a lot of pieces that are ready to go. We're just waiting for one or two more things to make it go live, and then we'll add community meetings and things like that. But we're almost ready, so it'll be live this week, and it would be judsonISD.org/bond2022, and we would post information like this on there. And anything that we send out to campuses as well, your flyers in English and Spanish and that sort of thing.
Ms. Tagano, so I just want to make sure, because I was in a conversation and in case I missed it, are we adding any more growth and planning meetings? Because I think the next one's not till like end of September. Are we adding any more to get prepared?
We are not adding additional meetings, but we are still holding the ones that are scheduled. So I believe the one in September will be held at ELAF STEAM Academy. We will still have that meeting. And then also the one in October. So all the ones that are already scheduled on the district calendar, we will still hold. And I think, Matt, Ms. Rodriguez has another question. It's okay.
In what capacity is an employee allowed to participate in PAC, or are they?
I'm sorry.
Can an employee participate in the PAC? Is that acceptable? Can you?
I'm going to let Carrie take that. I believe the answer is yes, though.
Yes, the answer is yes. So what that, now we're talking about your private money, right, being put into a PAC that's going to support the bond election. That is authorized. And you don't, if you wanted to go have yard signs made for you and your neighbors out of your own personal funds, you can do that because those are your personal funds and that's your personal time, right, outside of school to go get those yard signs put together and provide them for your neighbors. That's perfectly allowed.
Just for clarification, you can also contribute to the against the bond.
That's correct.
Any other questions? Okay, so if you, yes, Dr. Nance. I sure hope so. Can I say that?
You didn't say for or against.
Great questions. So if you do think of any, I know most of you have my direct email, but there is going to be a bond email for questions, and I think we named it Bond 2022
at judsonISD.org.
At judsonISD.org. So anybody that has any general questions about the bond can email that email address or mine. They'll both go to me, so either way. That's another avenue to ask questions and get some answers that way as well. And what we will do is we will compile questions and post them on an FAQ page on our bond website so that people can go to that and refer to questions and have answers. Oh, Yes, if you have any questions on your sticky notes that you would like for us to answer.
Dr. Fields is going to hold this in the back.
So again, we greatly appreciate your support. We greatly appreciate you coming and sharing your thoughts, your voice, and your support. That is all we have for this meeting, but we will stick around in case you have any other questions. But again,
the next one?
yes, yes, that we will have the next one at ELOF, but you'll get an email from me as well. So please drive carefully going home, stay dry, stay safe. Thank you so much.